welcome to OverBoost 15. OverBoost is a podcast interview series featuring discussions with speedrunners about their history in speedrunning and gaming and the runs they're passionate about. I am your host, PMC Trilogy, and with me today is Jabo. Jabo, thank you for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me, dude.
No, I'm really delighted to get some delicious... I feel like I've been lacking enough like RPG stuff, and especially to get something with Fallout in here is really exciting. And I always like to start with current events. And I know recently you did something that I thought was very cool, which was that you got involved with the QuakeCon at Home broadcast. And I was wondering if you could kind of talk about how you got involved in that and what you did for that event.
Honestly, this is a case of I would like to say that was all me, but it really wasn't. I'm big friends with current Twitch staff member whose name's Joe. He used to go by Henny Joe, and he knows quite a few people around the London area. And Bethesda have a headquarters in the London area, and it was Ophelia Noir. I believe that's how you said her name. She's a community manager at Bethesda. And I always had this idea that because Bethesda really push their Twitch channel, right? They really push it. They do a lot of community content, and I had this idea that if I could get in contact with them, I'd be like, look, just get me down for a weekend and let me show off some runs, and it would be like having anybody else on, except it's speedrun based. I can keep the speedruns topical and not necessarily showcase how broken the game is or whatever. But yeah, that happened. And then COVID, we were actually planning on doing something like that. Then COVID happened. COVID just absolutely ruined it. But instead, they gave me the backup of QuakeCon, which was really cool because QuakeCon was I'd heard about them having speedrunners before, but I don't think I'd ever seen Fallout at QuakeCon before. Usually it was very new games, and obviously a new Fallout game hasn't came out in a while, so the fact that they had a Fallout at QuakeCon this year was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I feel like I remember seeing some of the FPS stuff at past. I mean, surprise, right? QuakeCon, seeing stuff like that. But to see the Fallout stuff brought into it as well was neat. And I think I'll link the times. It was a little hard to find actually because I don't know if Bethesda's going to be posting individual VODs, but I had to go into the past broadcast to find it. But I just was curious, so the format of it ended up being that you were on a call with the community manager and you were sort of going over a pre-recorded run? Was that what's going on?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So I pre-recorded a run. I got a run, so first of all, the run's in French, but we had to change it to English, so it was slower than normal. Then I had to record a run on my own, which was obviously good enough. It took me a while to get a good run, actually, because usually the way I work is the more I don't have to think about a run, the better I am, because, muscle memory. But when you have to actually actively think about things, I always start messing everything up. So it took me a while to get a run. Then I had to send the run over to Ophelia, who then, checked for it to make sure that the run was fine. She got rid of all of the loading screens, so it was shorter in length. And then we watched it in Discord and just basically called back for it, and yeah. Then she put it over the video.
Cool. No, I mean, that's neat. I mean... So do you feel like overall it was obviously not the ideal, not the original plan, but was still a good experience in the end?
The entire way it was set up was perfect. The way it was executed was a bit I was a bit let down because I don't know if you watched the entire run, but the run got cut off due to technical issues.
Yeah, I saw that. I wasn't sure if that was just because it was just a limited amount of time period, or if there were technical problems.
I have a theory. I think they added the video as a media source, and if you have a media source on OBS, you shouldn't have it be over half an hour because then it starts messing up. And I think that's what they did with the video, and then the video cut out, and they couldn't get back up again. But the actual that's not really I don't really care too much because it's technical issues. It wasn't Yeah. Having the opportunity was pretty cool in itself, and I got to show it off to the full run off to my viewers anyways because I got sent the run. But no, I actually liked the format a lot. I was a huge fan of the format because what you had was Ophelia wasn't super knowledgeable on Fallout, right? So it created really interesting dialogue because you have a runner who pretty much knows everything about the game. Then you have someone who does know the game, knows premises of the game, has played the game before, but isn't super indulged in the lore/content. And the conversation back to back was just amazing. She would ask questions that the audience would ask, and it would make it easier to explain them. I feel like Did you watch GDQ, right? Did you see the Doom Eternal run with Meta? When Meta was commentating, that was probably one of the best runs at this GDQ, and I feel like that was primarily because Meta hadn't been fully updated with the strats, and it made some really interesting dialogue back to back about how things had changed, and it made it interesting because as a viewer, you don't fully know the speedrun, but getting like pulled in from an outside perspective really helps, and that's what Ophelia did for me, and that's what Meta did for the Bloodshot run at GDQ. But I like the format of having someone who asks the questions that the audience would ask, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It's an issue of sort of like the literacy to ask, questions that are on the right track, but of course, not knowing everything already yourself, and so you really get to sort of track closer to things. Yeah,
and you get a more raw reaction too, because if you know everything, you'll ask the questions, but more out of just asking the questions. Whereas if you genuinely don't know, you've got an interest, right? I just feel like it was better.
Yeah, no. All right, let's go back in time. Let's get the origin story here.
Okay.
How does gaming start for you?
Oh, gaming. Okay. So this goes back to my childhood. I was born in a huge family. You're probably not going to believe this. It was 6 boys, 5 girls. 5 brothers, 5 sisters. So I'm one of the boys, of course. Huge family. We didn't really have a lot of money, so I never had the current gen console, but I was always set back a couple of years. So I started off with the Sega, which is, for somebody in like 2003, 4 as a kid, having a Sega Mega Drive or Sega Genesis, as it's called in America, was just stupid. But like that's what I was raised up on. Then an N64, then a GameCube, and it was like I kind of felt like I was back and like delayed, but I felt like it was a really good thing for me because it meant I got to go through more generations of games and I could appreciate more games. So that was cool. But it also meant that I was kind of ridiculed by my friends because they were like, "Oh, let's play COD tonight," and I was like, I'm off to go play Metroid Prime because that's the console I have at home. But yeah, that's how gaming started.
Were you competing for time on the consoles with your siblings then? Was that a source of difficulty?
No. Speedrunning never came into the question until I think it was...
No. I don't mean like... I don't mean competing times. I meant competing for time to play the console, period.
Yes. That was a huge problem in our house. So the GameCube was the only console out of the first few that was mine, and I barely played it because my brother would come into my room and just be like, "Hey, get out!" And what am I supposed to do about it? I've got 2 older brothers who are like strong-arming me out of the room. I can't play my games. That happened a lot, but I would be left with a Sega, and it was pretty good.
Now, did you end up being in possession of any of these items, or?
Oh, dude, you're heartbreaking.
Are they still around?
I actually talk about this a lot, and it's like one of my biggest hatreds. And I don't think I'll ever forgive my mum for this. She gave my N64 plus 20 games, and the worst part was it was SM64 and the Mario Kart 64 both had the boxes. She gave them away for free. And she gave away the Sega Mega Drive, and I think it had like 70 plus games for free too. I just came home from school one day, it was gone. She was like, it was cluttering your room, I had to get rid of it. I was so mad, honestly, and yeah, I still haven't forgiven her for that. I haven't seen them since.
Yo, that's rough. I don't think I've ever heard that one before. I ask that question a lot. I usually get various versions of, it's lost in a box, or it just stopped working, or I sold it to buy a newer thing.
Oh,
but the straight up giving it away, especially so many games too. I feel like if you only have a few games, maybe it really is just clutter. But it sounds like you and your siblings had a substantial library of cartridges.
This was when you were a kid and you're in a large family like that. That was, not to say it, but that was my life, right? And to have it just given away it sucked. But, as a kid at the time, I wasn't too super bothered, right? Because I think at that time I had an Xbox 360, so I was playing games with my friends at that time. But there was a part inside of me that I always wanted to keep those consoles for when I was older. I always knew that was something I wanted to do, and just to have it go away like that sucked.
Now, I want to ask, so the games that we're going to be discussing, Fallout 3, 4, Outer Worlds, are they're available on console, but I feel like most people I know think of them as very PC-centric games. At what point did you get into PC gaming? Because I feel like that's sort of one of the issues about PC gaming is that, having a computer that can play games can be an expensive proposition.
Yeah, I'd say nowadays it's more viable, right? You can probably buy like a £100, like $200 PC and play like a majority of games, right? Maybe not high-end games, but you could probably get away with playing like a lot of RPGs, a lot of games like that. So I always wanted a PC, but I could never afford it. And I had to wait till I was 17 till I got my PC. Yeah, no, it was 17, I got my PC, and a year later is when I think I started streaming. And I actually remember getting a PC because I wanted to play League of Legends.
Oh no!
I was introduced to Fallout and Bethesda games way before that in the 360, so it wasn't like that was. I didn't think. To me at the time, it was kind of alien to play like those games on PC, and you don't realize till you play them on PC how much better they are, right? But no, I did want a PC. It was for League and CS:GO that I wanted a PC because my friends are playing it, right? My friends are playing these games, and I just wanted to be involved with what was going on, and that's why I think I remember it was I saved up my birthday and my Christmas money to get a PC just to play League with my friends.
Do you still play a lot of League? Are you still big into League and CS:GO, or was that a pretty temporary thing?
It was a huge part of my life for like 3 to 4 years, but I ditched it recently because it's not very productive. League specifically, CS:GO, like I don't play CS:GO anymore, but I play Valorant a bit. It's more that's more like a recreational thing, but I did obsessively play League for like 3 years of my life. And if I could go back in time and stop myself, I would. But it's one of those things where like, you just enjoy it, you just do it. And I remember grinding, I reached plat, like that means anything. But then I ditched it, and yeah, that was I don't play them anymore. I play ARAM every now and then, just again recreationally when I've got nothing to do with my time.
No, I mean, honestly, it sounds like the MOBA stuff is healthier, a little bit healthier these days, that you can say something like that, you can play recreationally. Just my framework for understanding MOBAs is that I only played MOBAs for 2 years, and that was like 2004 to 2006 when it was Dota, the original Dota. Mm. And so it's and that was not a healthy environment.
MOBAs tend not to be for like the first 2 years. I feel like people obsessively play them because they have this. You tend to see yourself improve when you play the game, so you get addicted to playing it, right? I feel like with MOBAs, it's easier to see yourself improving as you play the game.
So, all right. So let's now get to talking about speedrunning. How did you first learn about speedrunning?
AGDQ 2012. I think it was 2012. It was the one that had Siglemic turn up on camera for the first time. And I remember watching it and being like, everybody in chat was just getting excited. And I was like, who's this guy? Siglemic? Like, everyone was getting excited for him to come up on stream, and then he came up on stream and everyone got like super hyped about it, and I was like, okay. But I remember loving that run of Super Mario. Absolutely. And just the entire event in general. Just something connected with me. I thought it was really entertaining. And I felt like it was the idea of getting a game that was not competitive and making it competitive sounded fun. So yeah, I got dragged in through. I feel like everybody's going to say the same thing, GDQ. But yeah, it was GDQ.
I mean, GDQ is a popular answer, but what's really interested me about it is the range of dates. Like I think I'm there kind of with you. Like I very much remember the summer of 2012 as being the summer of Siglemic and watching Siglemic streams. But it's interesting. There's a range of years, on this podcast where we get answers for when did GDQ pull them into speedrunning. Now, after that first taste, SGDQ 2012. Did you then immediately start regularly consuming Twitch streaming, or did you take a step back before coming back to watching speedrun streams?
So I think was it Justin TV in 2012? I can't remember.
I think it's the spring of 2012 when it changes over from Justin to Twitch.
I remember watching stuff on Justin. I've always been in the stream, like watching streams. It was just more of like GDQ was on and people were watching it, and I was just getting pulled into it. But no, Twitch was always something that I was interested in, and GDQ was just this thing that I thought, oh, this comes up every 6 to 12 months. I'll watch it and just enjoy it. But yeah, Twitch was, day-to-day kind of thing.
I always mess this up. It was introduced in June 2011 as a spin-off of Justin TV. Here you go. So I always think it's 2012, but it's actually 2011.
Yeah, I can't, dude, that's a blur to me. Anything. No. The only thing I remember of 2012 is the Olympics, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. 2012. How long ago was it? What is time?
8 years ago?
Yeah, maybe. Well, we've been in the same month for about 6 months now.
Is it still March?
Yeah, it's still March as far as I can tell. At least in America, USA. So at what point did you decide, hey, I can actually... You already mentioned that you'd gotten a PC initially when you were, in 2017? Or was it when you were 17?
It was when I was 17.
When you were 17.
So that would have been...
you don't have to dox yourself.
Dude, I'm 23. That was 2014 when I got a PC.
Okay. So at that point, you were you already ready to do speedruns yourself, or had you not yet taken the plunge?
So, speedrunning, it was something I tried with Fable 2 back from 2012 to 2014. Never seriously, never recorded times. I just did it. I watched the speedrun, I copied it. I loved Fable 2. Fable 2 was a game that I absolutely adored for so many years of my life. And I remember just sometimes I'd get my stopwatch out of my phone, turn on the console, and just play for 2 hours, 3 hours, and I would just document the times on a piece of paper and just see the improvements. But it was never something I did seriously, and I never tried to even go for a world record. But when I got my PC in 2014, I didn't actually think about speedrunning. I think I did. So this was when I was 17. When I was 18, I moved to Scotland, which is where I live now, and I had a year of my life where I was just in a phase where I didn't do anything. And I think that was when I just picked up Super Mario 64 on an emulator. I just did speedruns of it, not even remotely close to what strats they use. It was just more recreationally, and again because I just wanted to pass the time. But it wasn't until I started streaming that I actually started properly speedrunning.
Now, was your goal of streaming to do speedruns, or are you just streaming, whatever you were playing at the time, League or anything?
So, streaming was something that I took seriously from the get-go. It was something that I was I did a couple weeks of streaming before that, where I just did Nintendo games on emulator, just to get used to the software. But no, when I actually properly started streaming, it was something I always took seriously and felt like I could invest a lot of time into, because again, Twitch was my life, right? Well, kind of still is, but it was more just I really wanted to just try, and I felt to myself, I gotta ask the question of, I gotta stream stuff that people want to watch, right? It's the weird thing about Twitch is you gotta find, if you don't find your own content entertaining, why would somebody else? So I thought to myself, what do I find entertaining? Speedrunning. Why don't I just do it? And it just so happened to be, I was honestly just looking through my Steam library the day before I was going to go live, and I just saw Fallout 3, and I was like, okay. And I learned to speedrun live on Twitch, and then I did speedruns, and then, the rest is history.
And did Fallout 3 get big for you right away? Do you feel like anything was particularly sort of a breakout thing for you?
So the reason why I picked Fallout 3 was I loved the game, first of all, of course. Second of all, I noticed that nobody ran it anymore. So I just kind of looked at it and thought, if this isn't active, why? And why not just try it out to see if because at that point it's unique, right? If no one's running it, if you're the only person running it, that's a unique selling point. Why not give it a try? And my viewer count, I remember my viewer count just immediately being 10 to 15 viewers. It was never 0 to 10, I was immediately 10 to 15 from what I remember. It was so long ago. But from what I remember, it was 10 to 15. And that was during Any% and Bobbleheads, which was my early days. That was the early days content that I did for 6 to 7 months. And yeah.
No, I mean, that's great. Honestly, I think what you're saying, too, counts for a lot, which is if you're coming to speedrunning with really thinking about it from a streaming perspective, and you're looking for opportunities to both stream and speedrun, even if you think like, oh, well, this game's been done to death, like, I can't possibly, do this. This is already, but like, remember, streaming is a real-time product. It's a real-time entertainment content. And, people are interested in very popular, well-loved games like Fallout 3. And so, that's, as you've just said, that's an opportunity there, even if you think like, oh, I don't want to, worry about getting the top time or something like that. You can still have fun with the game and, provide that entertainment for people who also share that interest in Fallout 3.
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of long speedruns, and I remember just looking at Fallout 3 and thinking, like, the longer categories, nobody touched. Like, the only category people ran was any percent. And I remember just looking, because, I was, at that time, I remember just being a huge fan of Ocarina of Time and Zelda speedruns, and I always thought that the longest speedruns were much more entertaining. And I remember looking at Fallout 3 and thinking, why are these runs not getting touched? I watched the current records, and they were entertaining. The person who was running it was having a good time, and they were talking to chat. I was like, why does nobody do this? Because, as far as I'm aware, Fallout's a pretty popular franchise. Why is this not being touched? And I felt like I had found a diamond in the rough, right? Where not only was that, to be quite frank, free content, but it was also a good run that was enjoyable to run and to watch, and nobody was doing it. So I picked it up, and then I think it was like a year and a half, I just did nothing but speedrun Fallout 3. Not any percent, though. Any percent I did for like a couple of weeks and just ditched because it was too short.
Yeah, no, and of course we'll get to that. Yeah, so we'll be discussing a few runs in particular, and Fallout 3, 100% is one of those that we're going to get to. But before that, I want to do some general sort of speedrun hot take questions. Of all the runs that you've done, which is your favorite?
Of all the runs I've done, I have the best memories from Outlast 2 because that was when my channel first blew up, like on a severe scale. But I think that's just down to the fact that it was, the time and what was going on. But I think my most enjoyable run probably would have to be Fallout 3 100%. Just because there's nothing that beats the process of doing everything you can do in a game. And the good thing about Fallout 3 is, although there's a lot of like intense sections and there's a lot of tricks, there's also downtime too, where you can kind of just recoup and talk and just chill for a bit. So it's like, it's not too intense. It's like a perfect mix. I haven't been able to find a run like it since, where like there's this perfect mix of downtime, intense strats, and skill.
Okay, so then what's the flip side of that then? Of the runs that you've done, what would you say is the least favorite?
Is my least favorite? I'm not a huge fan of short categories, but I don't think that's like the category being bad. I would say my least favorite. This is I wasn't prepared for this. What is my least favorite run?
I'm not asking you to put a community on blast. You're.
No, I mean, I would probably say Fallout 4 any percent. Any percent for Fallout 4 sucks. And Tomato Innes is gonna kill me for saying this, but I absolutely hate it. He loves it, but like, there's two tricks I hate in speedrunning, and that's save warping and like launch tricks that like zip you across the map. And Fallout 4 has both those. Any percent does.
I mean, it does. It absolutely does. I'll have to add him and make sure he listens to this part.
Oh no, dude.
So, all right. So one more little fun question, which is, what is a game that you would love to get around to learning, but either you just haven't had the time, or you just feel that it's sort of incompatible with your channel right now?
Dark Souls 3. I absolutely love the Dark Souls franchise. I love Dark Souls 3. I love Dark Souls 3 speedrunning. I've been like putting it off and putting it on the back burner for so long, but I want to learn either Dark Souls 3 no hits or Dark Souls 3 soul level 1 glitchless all bosses. And the only reason why I haven't learned them is they just take a long time to learn. There's nothing to do with channel. I feel like I could make it work on my channel. My audience has been pretty nice with the content they watch, right? Because I do get away with playing a lot of like variety games, but I feel like Dark Souls 3 would be fine. It just takes a long time to learn, and with a lot going on right now, it's just not been the right time to do it.
All right, I have to. So I'm not very much into Souls, and I feel like I've heard some people being down on Dark Souls 3. Is Dark Souls 3 being your favorite? Is that considered a hot take in among Souls fans, or is that just normal?
I thought that was the normal consent. Like, I felt like that was the most general opinion. It was Dark Souls 3 1, then 2 was like way back in the distance.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No, I think that's right. I think I just have sort of an anecdotal anomaly in that I know a bunch of people who got really mad at Dark Souls 3 in particular.
No, I absolutely love Dark Souls 3. I don't think it's got the map design of Dark Souls 1 at all, because Dark Souls 1 has the best like level map layout, but just the world design of Dark Souls 3 and like the combat and everything, it's just a more polished and well-defined game. Yeah.
All right. One more final general speedrunning question, which is, when it comes to speedrunning, do you feel like you have a particular role or mission statement when it comes to speedrunning, be that, you're just focused on grinding attempts, or you like routing, trick, glitch hunting, etc.?
So I've got a good answer to this. My initial quest or goal was to bring interest into longer categories for Fallout. Because Fallout 3, again, I felt like that was just an untapped, like, nobody paid attention to it for no reason. And I just wanted people to run it. That's all I wanted them to do. I just wanted to get people interested in running Fallout 3 longer categories. And I just wanted people to show an interest in it. And they did eventually. But now, it's... In speedrunning, I think it's just more like, I want to enjoy myself, right? I don't mind, like, I will go after world records if I feel like I need to. I'll go after, like... I don't mind like putting pedal to the metal and like grinding. That's fine by me. But to me, it's just more about enjoying myself and having a good time.
No, that is always the most important thing. But also, I do like your answer there of bringing attention to sort of an area, or I guess in this case, literally a category that's underappreciated, which I guess makes a perfect segue into talking about Fallout 3 100%. One thing I wanted to clarify. So I had watched your Fallout 3 100%, which is I believe the world record, the 250-240?
I think that's the current world record, yeah.
Okay. And one thing I wanted to ask, so now it's pretty obvious from watching it that it does have all of the DLC in it. Was that just sort of an agreement by the community to always run this version of the game with all the DLC in it?
I mean... it was, the category is called All Mocha Quests. I don't know what that means, but it's basically just as much as you can get out of the game. I just thought that was 100% really, and yeah, I mean, if you've got DLCs that actually add content to the game and a good variety of content, why not just chuck it in there, right? Why not just add it to the mix of what you're doing and completing the game? It just makes sense. It's like doing Dark Souls 3 all bosses without the DLC. It doesn't make sense, right? When you actually like look at it. So yeah, why not? Why,
if your goal is to do more, and that's your interest to do that. So you already kind of alluded to this, but in terms of a category definition, this category is fairly expansive because it's a lot of collectible items, a lot of bobbleheads, magazines. Were you the person that really did a lot of the routing for this, or had the work been done before you arrived?
So, at first, no. Pro Gaming with Ed did the entire routing himself, as far as I'm aware, and I just took his route and just, improved on it and worked on it. But then we had a complete, I think it was like 6 to 7 months into the running of the category, when I just got it under 3 hours, there was a complete reroute. And 5 minutes got shaved off the time. And if I remember correctly, there was like a couple of weeks periods where it was just like nothing but route changes that happened. And yeah, at that point it was just rerouting it, but that was fun. But yeah, the category itself has went through like 2 to 3 major changes, and now it just kind of stands dormant.
So then, all right, well, let's maybe ask an open-ended question, because watching it, there's a lot to talk about in terms of approaches to different mechanics in the game. But I want to give you the open-ended opportunity to just answer what's your favorite sort of trick or strategy in the run.
I think so. One of my favorite tricks is duping, because I love the idea of just duplicating like stuff and people just not knowing what you do, and then you have to show it to them. That's cool because we can duplicate we duplicate Nuka-Cola Quantums for the Quantum Quest. We have the hand in 30 to Sierra Petrova, so we don't have to actually collect them. We used to have to collect 30 Quantums in the Wasteland, which was like a lot of time loss. But now we just dupe them, and then we dupe stim packs for health and stuff. But my favorite trick, probably just the fact that you can quick save, quick load for any wall in the game. Yeah, like you can just phase through pretty much everything. Like vault doors is one of my favorites because the vault door in the game is like 2 to 3 meters thick. It's like 6 feet thick, right? It's huge, but you just quick save, quick load through it, and you just get pushed through to the other side. It's just stupid.
Now, of course, this is Fallout 3 is an RPG game. When it comes to elements of your character's build, stats, attributes, equipment, what's important to being able to do everything quickly?
There was 2 things to note. So you had to play as a female because you get the Black Widow perk, which lets you get 2 dialogue checks, which would otherwise be 25%, which is RNG, and you don't want that in a run. So we'd play as a female to eliminate that. And then it would just be... So skills don't tend to matter too much unless you're talking about early game. We need to take 25 explosives so we can defuse the bomb in Megaton. So I think that required... I'm probably going to get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was like in Perception? I can't remember, dude. It's been so long since I've done Fallout 3. But you do Perception, then you take the Little Leaguer perk, which gives you like extra explosive, and then you just defuse the bomb straight away. But other than that, it's pretty similar to every other Bethesda game, with the fact that like there's not much that your character creation actually does to impact whether or not you can do stuff in the game. If that makes sense. How you build your character does impact that, but the starting character not so much.
Well, can you talk about then, like are there certain sort of breaks in the run where you really need to be, say, like level 5 by the time you get to X place?
So you have to have like 100 lockpick almost immediately to unlock doors that allow you to bypass certain areas. That's almost needed as soon as you leave like Mothership Zeta, which is in like the first 25 minutes. I could be getting this wrong, but I haven't done the run in a long time. Other than that, speech was important because RNG, because the way that Fallout 3's speech works is you don't need the speech level. It's just you have a percentage chance of succeeding. So if you had 10 speech, you had like a 10% chance, which you don't want that in a run. You want it to be 100% because then you'd have to quick save, quick load a lot, and it would lose you a lot of time. So what you would mainly do was just lockpick straight away to 100, then speech, and then I think you went for like explosives after that. That was for one mission in one of the DLCs, if I remember correctly. But yeah, other than that, it wasn't anything really serious. There was Animal Friend. You have to take that as a perk to make sure animals don't stop you fast traveling. But other than that, it was more like safety stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously you're spending almost 3 hours walking around. A lot of the stuff you mentioned makes sense. But one of my questions was, you already kind of answered earlier, which was just that as a speedrun to stream, there's some amount of time where you are walking from point A to point B in terms of getting all the quests and the collectibles and whatnot. And it seems like that does make for a pretty good streaming experience. But you had already said that, right?
Yeah, that was, again, my favorite part of the run was you just talk, right? It just gives you perfect time to talk. You just yap away. It's like you're running through the wasteland. It's great. There's very little amount of games that give you that as speedruns. And to me, that was what I wanted from a speedrun, was a blank canvas to just, go crazy with. And although the speedrun's cool and what you achieve is cool at the end of the day, and the effort you put in is cool, the alternative to that is you want to provide good day-by-day content so people are interested and they want to get involved in your community. So to make sure that you do that whilst also having an end goal which is achievable and entertaining to reach, Fallout 3 100%, Fallout 3 all quests, all DLCs, and all bobbleheads, like the separate categories, all provided that, which was perfect.
Cool. Now, with Fallout 3, it sounds like from inferring things from context of this interview, that this particular category is not something that you've done specifically in a little bit. do you have any plans to return to this category, or are there other parts of Fallout 3 that you've been working on, other categories?
No, Fallout 3 has not been something I've touched in a long time. Primarily because I have the records in like the categories I care about, and there's not much. There's only I'm pretty sure there's only like one runner who's radioactive that is trying to beat my times, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty sure he's only doing that in like sparingly, so it's not like the way I was back in the day, which was like every day, every hour I was grinding. So it's going to take him something huge to knock down my times, right? I just don't have much interest in it because there's no competition and there was not much going on. It was just like the ambition I had for Fallout 3 that drove me to just knock down the times is gone, and I just moved on to something else.
No, I mean that seems about right. I tend to agree there that, you know, competition can be a primary factor, and, you know, with the absence of that, it's often time to move on to something else. Mm-hmm. But let's do that now. Let's talk about the experience of playing. You know, so you have your thing, your shtick, your jam. That's Fallout 3, and a new game that is very much aiming to be in that space, in your sci-fi, you know, first person, you know, open-ended RPG shows up from the developer of New Vegas, Obsidian, in the Outer Worlds. And were you on board with this, or did you just sort of like, well, I guess I should do this, you know, since it's sort of in my wheelhouse?
So here's the bane of being a Fallout runner, is there's not much content, right? There's not much new stuff that comes out. So you really struggle. When you're doing this every day, it's like, I remember seeing the release of Fallout 76, and I was kind of blindsided by it because I really wanted it to be a good game. Because if it was a good game, I had content for another year, right? I had stuff that I could drive towards doing. I had like potential for new audience members to join. I really wanted the game to succeed, not because I wanted the game to be good, but because it was going to offer me stuff to do and stuff to achieve and stuff to go for. And then 76 came out, and ugh. But then, like, I went through this phase of like jumping between runs, and I remember I did Sekiro for a short while, and that kind of sucked because like my audience just didn't click with Sekiro. They left, and I wasn't getting high times. And Sekiro is also not a game that gives you downtime, so I kind of felt like the magic was lost. Then Outer Worlds came out, and I was I mean, I'm a huge fan of New Vegas. New Vegas is my favorite Fallout game. I love Obsidian. I love the work that they do. And I saw Outer Worlds. Jesus. I saw Outer Worlds, and I was like, this is something I have to play, right? This is something I have to stream. This is something I have to get involved with from the get-go, because the game looks great. The developers, I know, are great. And if they're going for a game that's kind of Fallout-esque in design, I want to jump on board. I want to be a part of that community, right? Because I think
that makes sense. I mean, it all follows.
I think the main problem I had was with Fallout 3, I was late to the boat, right? I was years late. Outer Worlds was an opportunity to be the first to the door.
And so, like, do you feel that ended up just being not as positive experience, that maybe you didn't really enjoy being there on the ground floor?
What, with Fallout 3?
With Outer Worlds, because you said with Fallout 3 you weren't there, you know, when things first happened, and so you were late to that. Whereas Outer Worlds, you now had the opportunity to be there on the ground floor.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved like seeing people get interested in a game in real time, and I loved seeing people, you know, share to me, it opened up this like Pandora's box of routing a game as it comes out, and it just like, I loved it. And there's no experience like it when a new game comes out that people are excited for, and then they start routing, and, you know, this is here and this is there, and oh, we found this trick and this trick's cool, and that is like a very unique feeling, right? It's like when Mario Odyssey came out, and like you have Trihex streaming routing, and then you have like you know, all these other streamers just routing the game, and it's just so fun because it's so hectic and there's so much going on. It was great. I loved it.
And so how did it shake out in the long run, in terms of, because eventually, you know, I mean, all that excitement, I mean, and I agree completely that the excitement of picking up a game, a new game, or a game that's previously been unrouted, finding tricks, applying those tricks, and having a run shake out with doing that with a group of other people, especially, of course, with a big new game, you're doing that with a sort of a large group, most likely. How do you feel about the any percent run that ultimately came out of this process?
I like the any percent run that came out of it. It's just I'm not a fan of short runs. I've never been a fan of short runs. I again like runs that are longer, and I noticed that the more I did runs of any percent, and the smaller the time became, that I wasn't enjoying it. Not because the game was bad or that the run was bad. It was just the duration of the run sucked. I wasn't a fan of it. No.
Now, did you end up sort of looking into maybe the same approach with this game that you took to Fallout 3, in that you wanted to explore longer categories?
Yeah, I pretty much did all companions. Yeah, so I routed and ran all companions, and that was really fun for a couple of weeks. But then it just went off because nobody was running it. And again,
I did look into that, and I watched that video, and I noticed that it really seemed like there just weren't many other runs in that category, which seems strange because you're calling it a longer run, and it is a longer run than 80%, but it's still 44:16, which is not too long, really.
It's not, and it's also probably one of the easiest runs I've learned in my life, because you just go up to an NPC, talk to them, run to the next person. It's not hard. I was really disappointed with, because this comes down to Outer Worlds. The game just felt like not a tech demo. It just felt like it was supposed to be part of something bigger. A lot of people were let down by that game, not because the game was bad, just because the game just didn't have a lot. And you can kind of see it in the speedruns, because even the longer categories just aren't super long, right? And the game itself just really struggled to push speedrunners to routing and finding stuff out, because stuff was pretty much laid out. The only thing that was kind of cool that we discovered was the sun ending, which I actually remember. So the way that worked, it was the third day of release, was somebody came in my chat. I can't even remember who it was, because I don't even think they followed or even watched me for more than that stream, and they just told me that if you had 0 intelligence you could fly into the sun, and it was a canon ending. And I remember we tried it out, and then that's when the run went from 25 minutes to 16 in the space of an hour. That was cool, but that was pretty much the limit of what cool got from Outer Worlds.
I hadn't quite figured out the context, because of course you're skipping through dialogue, so it's not always easy studying a speedrun, and I don't think I properly understood how that run worked and what the ending was there.
Yeah,
so
a lot
I'm just
of people
sort of
don't.
being taken aback right now by 0 intelligence, so you fly into the sun. Okay.
So the way it works is the run has so it has three. I would say it's a 3-part game. You have the first part game, which is the first area. You're mainly finding out about the area, you're playing the game, you're discovering how to play the game, that your actions have consequences. You go to the second area, which is much bigger, you have more to indulge in. Then you have the third act, which is getting on the Hope ship, which is where you originally started, and then flying it to, I forget where it is, but you fly it to a station, and you free the passengers of the Hope. But if you choose to fly the ship yourself and not have the autopilot fly it, usually under normal situations nothing happens, but if you have 0 intelligence, you fly it straight into the sun, and it's a canon ending. You get the credits, and we just were well, if you get the credits, it's a canon ending, plus it's kind of cool, because people are going to talk about it as well. Let's be real, right? You're not doing, you're flying a ship into the sun. People are going to eat this up at GDQ and other events. This is great, and it's canon too, because you can explain it by the fact that there's credits. And then we just went with it, and it was great.
No, I mean that's a neat thing. Is there so would there be anything else in terms of this run that you'd want to highlight in terms of build or things like that? Because I know you mentioned a lot of it is just going and talking to person in person, but in terms of the combat, of any particular equipment or anything like that.
There was one trick that was really cool where we found out if you stole an item and got a guard to walk over to a doorway, he opened the doorway and it skipped 30% of the game. That was cool. But again, the problem with this game is you don't use the combat, period, in the any percent speedrun, similar to Fallout 3 and similar to New Vegas. And pretty much kind of similar to Fallout 4. It's just something I don't like, where you don't do the combat, you don't you just skip everything, and it's cool to watch in a one-off case, but to grind it as a speedrunner, it's not fun.
No, that's extremely fair. That's one of those things where when you have such a short category, like, I feel you hear this more often with categories that are like true sort of credits warps, like the arbitrary code execution stuff. But I think it's also true of a game like, like a Fallout RPG, where you can effectively ignore a substantial part of the game, and that's it's a part of the game that you enjoy, and it kind of kills some of it.
Yeah, because like speedrunning is people who enjoy the game enjoying the game more, right? You're finding a new reason to play the game, and if that new reason eliminates what you enjoy from the game, there's no, you're not going to enjoy it. You're not going to enjoy speedrunning if there's no combat. It's like if you like, for example, I got involved with the Doom Eternal speedruns, and when the any percent just became, flying across the map and not doing any of the combat, I just was like, no, I don't want to be a part of this, because it's not because I don't have anything against it. I think it's totally fine that runners do that. That's like, you should do that. That if it's fast to do it, but it's, I have the choice as to whether or not I run it, and I was like, no, it's not what I enjoy about the game, and I have no interest in just grinding a category for a time. It's for me, again, like I said earlier, it's just more about enjoying myself.
Now, with Outer Worlds, would you... my guess is that it's probably a similar situation to Fallout 3, in which, there isn't, for example, competition for all companions. Do you have any plans to return to that game right now? Like, what if there were competition or something like that?
Actually, I do. So, like, I've been looking into YouTube lately. I think a lot of streamers have, because YouTube is what you want to get involved with, right, to grow your channel.
Yep.
And I've been looking into setting up a premise where I try to get the 90% world record in a week. So I'm like, YouTube video, I try to get the world record in a week kind of thing. But like, I think if you do a week of grinding, you could probably get close, and it would make for like, and plus I do enjoy the 90% run, so why not just do it for like a week, right? But other than that, no. There's a DLC coming out. I will probably run that.
There's a DLC, yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably run the DLC. At least for a short while, depending on how good the run is, but other than that, probably not, no.
Would your plan be to run the DLC by itself, or to incorporate it into something like an All Companions or other category?
Well, it depends what the DLC is, right? Because the DLC could just be a second, different alternative game, or it could be like, you have to do 90% of the game to access the DLC, which is what I hope it is, by the way, because it means the run would be longer.
Right.
But if the DLC involves companions and involves a lot of quests, I could go down the Fallout 3 route and just include it in, and I hope the DLC is good. I have good faith that it will be. They've spent a good while on it. I mean, Obsidian have been busy with like Grounded and a lot of the new games coming out, but I hope the DLC is good. If it is, regardless of whether or not it's good or not, I'll run it for a bit, play it at least. Yeah, we have to wait and see what it actually involves.
Yeah, no, we'll have to wait and see. All right, well, let's move on to our third game here, Fallout 4, and in particular, you've already talked about why you don't like regular Fallout 4 any percent. So of course this is glitchless, and for the benefit of any listeners, let me get this out of the way up front. How can you run a Bethesda RPG?
If I had, I'm not kidding, if I had like $10 for every time someone said that, I would probably put a loan down on a house. I'm not kidding. It's easy, right? You just, we define glitches as intentional. So, as long as you're not intentionally using a glitch to speed up your run, you're fine, right? You might accidentally do like, what we call a cover slide, where you pull out your gun, like looking around a corner, and then put it away, and then pull it out later on. But we're not going to, unless it speeds up the run, we're not going to call it like a non-glitchless run, because it's just a group of rules for runners to go by. If you do something accidental, or like a character glitches through the floor, why should you lose your run? It's not, that's not in the nature of the speedrun, right? The nature of the speedrun is to use these rules to get a fast time and to have fun while you're doing it, and to have a bit of competition. It's not to scrutinize everything that takes place in the game.
Right. I mean, I think, obviously, you could tell from the way I asked that I was just sort of, I was just sort of goading you into getting what is the, I think the correct answer, just for anyone who doesn't run themselves, is that when we have categories like this, glitchless, no major glitches, etc., the point is to define a rule set that is sort of interesting to runners to compete over, which is, so, and also this avoids, some of the things that, Jabo, you had said earlier that you didn't want to deal with, zipping across the map, things like that. So I think a question I had, normally, again, I start with the question about like, what's your favorite stuff, but I have to ask up front, is the Sea Captain's hat like actually important to the run?
No.
No, okay.
It was for a while. That was so it became a meme of like a discussed strat, because what happened was it gives endurance, but getting it loses time, right? Because you have to go out your way to pick it up. And we were just like, I remember just sat there like, when did this get added to the run? Is this even faster? Because we don't know. No one's timed it, because it was just implemented, and then we found out that it's like 5 seconds slower. Some people still use it because, 5 seconds slower is nothing, really, when you think about it. It's in an hour and a half run, 5 seconds is 5 seconds. You can afford to lose it. But yeah, it was interesting. And now it's just became like just a meme, really. It's just a little joke that we have of like the Sea Captain's hat.
Now, you had said that you had first played Fallout 3 on 360 before coming to it as a PC speedrun. Was it a similar story with Fallout 4 where you had first played that on console before coming to it as a PC speedrun?
So, if I remember correctly, I played Fallout 4 on my Xbox One when I first got that, and what an awful console that is.
I think I've still only seen like one in my life.
Yeah, I got it because I was excited for Halo. I was bought into the whole, like, Halo's coming back. It really wasn't, let's be real. And, but I got it anyways, and I mean, if I got a PS4, it probably wouldn't have been any different, because I don't really play console games. I played Fallout 4 for, probably 6 to 7 hours, didn't really do much in the game on the console, and then put it down, because at that point I was too busy streaming. I was too busy, I think it was Fallout 3 I was focusing on still, maybe a bit in New Vegas, so I didn't really, have an interest in Fallout 4. When did Fallout 4 come out, actually? Let me look this up, because I actually can't remember. Fallout 4 came out in 2015, so
yeah, I was gonna say 2015.
I was streaming after Fallout 4 came out, so at this point when I was done with Fallout 3 in New Vegas, Fallout 4 was long out. Nobody was caring about it really as a forefront speedrun kind of thing. So it was something that I'd watch. I remember watching Tomato do runs of it back in the day, but it was never something I really cared about or even had on my mind, because I had all this content in front of me with New Vegas and Free, and there's a difference in audience between the two. You didn't want to intersect them too much, so I was just focusing on growing my audience first before looking outwards. But Fallout 4 was a game I played on my console. I played it for a short while, and then I just remember not being interested in it, and I can't remember why. I think it was just the fact that I felt like the base building was just too shoehorned in. And then I played it on PC, and I realized that the game was actually much better than I thought it was. I don't think it was better than Free of New Vegas still, and I think that's a very similar opinion that everyone else has. But I don't think it was as bad as I originally thought it was. And I actually grew to actually enjoy the game. And then I realized that the way the game's broken down, the second half of the game is so much better, and and I missed out on that. And then I was like, maybe I should actually think about speedrunning this. And then when I remember when I was just one summer, I can't remember when it was, I just was like, Tomato, can you teach me any %? And then I learned any %, and at the time any % was good, so it was enjoyable for a short while. And then any % went for its recent iterations and became what it is today.
Oh boy, so at that point you're like, well, I need something better to do, and I guess you picked up Glitchless then?
For Fallout 4, I picked up any %. Yeah, oh yeah, when I realized that, yeah, I picked up Glitchless. And Glitchless was surprisingly better. Again, I think it just fell into that, golden ratio of downtime, right? And I noticed that, not only was I having more fun, but my metrics were better, my numbers were better, and I think it just comes down to the fact that, my audience just grows to the idea of, chatting, right? Having fun, just chilling, and letting the speedrun become secondary content, and Glitchless provided that while Any% didn't.
Yeah, I mean, the tricks that you're describing, and then I think I've seen sometimes in Any%, that's going to require your focus and a lot of stress in the way that, doesn't seem quite as a big deal in the glitchless category. Now, I know in the glitchless route, Institution is the ending that's chosen. Yep. I did want to ask, do you remember the first time playing through the game, what ending you picked? I was just very curious.
My actual first ending, I think it was Brotherhood of Steel, because I still like them from Fallout 3, and I was like, this is the only faction I actually know about, really, so I picked Brotherhood of Steel. Then I played it through a second time, and it was Minutemen. I never did Railroad because I never liked them. And then I learned to speedrun for Fallout 4 glitchless, and then I did a casual Institute playthrough on the side, and then I realized that I liked them the most. But yeah.
So why is Institute the fastest for glitchless?
So because you have to go to the Institute to end the game. The game has 2 acts. It has the beginning act, which is getting to the Institute, and the second act, which is picking an ending, right? And in all of the speedruns, you have to get to the Institute. It's just getting to the Institute is so much slower. I wouldn't want to say slower, but if you do Brotherhood of Steel, you have to do more quests beforehand, and it's the same with Minutemen, it's the same with Railroad, but ultimately not that much slower. But once you get to the Institute, you just pump out the quests, right? If you're sided with the Institute, it's just bang, 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 end the game. But if you're with Brotherhood of Steel, it's you have to get on, you have to persuade them, and you have to go back to Brotherhood of Steel, then you gotta, do all this setup stuff. The Minutemen's the worst, because you have to do so much, base building, and you have to, sort out settlements. And again, I don't know what the Railroad ending is, but I know that's really, really slow. But yeah, to answer your question, it's just primarily because getting to the Institute is required, and once you're already at the Institute ending is pretty much easy to get.
Now, also, I think you mentioned this briefly, but playing on the French language version is the fastest version. Do you feel like that's also conducive to what you're talking about in terms of it being sort of secondary background noise to the chatting and the streaming, having it be in a different language?
I would say it helps, because, if you've ever heard the French language, it's a lot of vowels, so it could just be ooh, 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 and you just let it play in the background, but I don't think it really adds too much to it. To me, it was just you could make a few memes here and there with the dialogue that they would say, but other than that, no, it was just French was faster.
I assume the reason it's shorter, it's just because some dialogue lines are faster in French.
Yeah, the French speak really fast, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's I feel like that's becoming more and more common. I can already think off the top of my head, I think Deus Ex Human Revolution French is fastest, Control French is fastest, so.
Yeah, it's so if you're doing the shorter categories like 6% or I think it's all companions. I could be wrong. You do that in German, because the German opening dialogue is faster. But for anything else, it's French. Man,
that must be. So when it comes to the determining that, is that a labor that you ever had any part in, or is it did someone else is it just people play the game and time the dialogue lines, or is there another way that gets determined?
No, dude,
you don't know. I've always wondered about that, because I tend to only mess around in small communities, and so I'm maybe this one is shorter, but who wants to do the labor?
Yeah, that's something I'd never do. That just doesn't sound fun. I don't think that sounds enjoyable, right? Listening to so much dialogue, and then you'd have to time it all. Oh no thanks.
That's just shout out to people who do the work.
Yeah, if you're willing to listen to that and find out that French is faster, that's super cool. But it's also one of those things that if you never find it out, it doesn't really impact the speedrun. So
right. If everyone's playing on the same language,
yeah. But then you also you could have someone from France playing on French, and then they're just oh, I got a sub 40-minute run, and
why are the French runners so fast?
Yeah, it's possible, and then maybe that's what happened. And then somebody looked into it. I don't know.
A question I had about a particular piece of tech is I think at some points, and I saw this in the rules too, because I looked at the speedrun.com rules for glitchless, and it seemed like there was some language specifically regarding the situation about shooting people to skip dialogue. and I was wondering if you could talk about like why is that? I mean, I don't necessarily. My first thought wouldn't be to consider it a glitch, and so it is permitted. How does it work? And also, like, are you also on board of considering it not a glitch?
So this is a thing that comes down to a community, right? And it's more this difference between an exploit and a glitch. To me, that's an exploit because the game gives you that mechanic to shoot. It gives you a person to talk to, and shooting them just skips the dialogue. It's not a glitch. It's like they have two voice packs, and they can only play one at a time. And if you shoot them, they have to go ow. So, you're exploiting the game. You're not glitching it. But if you get into this discussion, and this is what I hate, is this discussion can just go on for years with people because people are like, well, no, that's not that's a glitch. It's just rules, right? It's just the community comes to a decision, and if shooting someone isn't a glitch, or if it is a glitch, it doesn't really matter because everyone's following the rules, and the runs are probably the same anyways, right? They're just time. Like, I mean, one might have more time in it than the others, but I wouldn't consider it a glitch. I would consider it like you're just exploiting the game's shooting mechanic, and that's all you're doing. It's not, glitching the game. Like you're not like forcing the game to just spew out the dialogue and break. To me, it's a weird situation because you have to kind of defend it because people will jump down your throat if you say it's not, but I don't think it's a glitch, no.
Yeah, no, I think what you're saying makes sense, which is, and it's also, like, honestly seems like natural programming. You can't scream in pain and talk at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, that seems pretty normal behavior to me, so I can't really complain too much about that one. Now with Fallout 4, is this something, I mean, either this category or others that you have, future plans to work on?
I plan on looking into survival glitchless just because, it seems to me like, it could be a bit more interesting, but I'm pretty much done with glitchless now. Moving forward, it's like something I do. I go to a category, I play with it for a while, I enjoy it, I don't enjoy it, and then I move on. I've had my time with glitches. I'll probably go back to it at one point, just to for a couple of months, maybe, to mess around with it. But my time primarily, as it stands right now, is done with glitchless. Because right now, I'm doing a survival permadeath playthrough, and I'm having so much fun with it. And it's nice to do something a bit other than speedrunning for a while. So I think I'm going to incorporate that playthrough into a survival glitchless speedrun once I'm done, and maybe just try and take that record.
No, that sounds really cool. I mean, and I think what you're saying too is almost sort of a natural transition because you're in the same game, you're doing a challenge run, and that and if you're already enjoying the challenge run, and that could translate into further interest in other categories. So that seems pretty natural. All right, let's start to wind down. Let's start to exit this. One of the things I like to do in this interview series is have some connective tissue, to get a question from my previous guest for the next guest. So my last guest was a waifu, dude, who had this.
No, I'm just saying, waifu's a really cool dude. Me and him are like pretty much good friends. And I saw that you had a podcast with him. I thought it was pretty sick.
Yeah, no, I was glad to get him. It's he was definitely a lot of fun to talk to, especially about a lot of. I mean, of course, I'm going to plug my own podcast on my own podcast, but he was, he had a lot of great things to say about his games and about streaming and stuff too. Yeah. And so he had this question for you. He did not know that you were the next. Okay. I don't tell people who the next guest is going to be.
Okay.
But he gave this question. What do you think the importance of streaming is for speedrunning culture?
I think this is a very good question. Thanks, waifu. I think streaming has changed speedrunning, and speedrunning has changed streaming. Twitch. So I want to kind of brand this as Twitch because I think Twitch has like a separate culture to other streaming platforms. But Twitch has this crazy culture where everything intertwines, right? In one way or another, people like get together and they like, it all just meshes together. And speedrunning has always had a place on Twitch, whether that's just in TV or Twitch. It's always had a place, and it's always been this thing where like the community has always thrived, right? It's always, even back to like the Sig Lemick and Narcissa Wright days, like way back in 2012. It's always thrived. It's always had a good presence. And that's crazy to see So I think streaming is super beneficial. I think having the live showcase of runs and the failures along the way is almost necessary for people to grasp how hard and how like tough speedrunning is, and just what exactly people are doing when they stream hours and hours and hours on end just to save like 2 to 3 seconds. Because if you watched a YouTube video, you wouldn't really grasp it. You'd just be like, oh, I mean, this guy got a 1:12.26. That's cool, but I didn't see the process. But if you're watching the live stream, you see the hours. I mean, you actually just see the person change as they're running because it's years, right? And you see the hours they invest, and I think it's almost necessary for speedrunning, because without it, you don't see the work put in.
No, I think that's a good point. I think streaming, the real-time nature of streaming and the capacity for excess video content allows it to be surfaced in a way that, if we're just passing around VHS tapes of our best runs, you're not going to get that same picture.
No, but I mean, if that's the case, way back in the day when you did that, people kind of knew, because there would usually be friends that did it too. Whereas with streaming, it's like on a whole new level, right? You could get people that just aren't aware of what goes on and they just don't know, and to have them come in and actually experience that it's something else.
Yeah. I mean, I think already when I asked the question, how'd you learn about speedrunning on this podcast? So often the answer is streams, particularly GDQ, but that's a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that I do need from you a question for my next guest. The question can be anything gaming, speedrunning related, can be silly. Obviously, Waifu gave you a very, serious essay answer question, but it's can be as silly as mix 2 consoles to make a new console, favorite soundtrack, just some past examples of questions.
Okay. I guess my question would be, if you could go back in time and choose a game to speedrun, and stream on Twitch, what game would it be and what time would it be?
Okay, that's going to be a good one.
Because I feel like a lot of us, right, we've experienced these games, but like you'd never really expect them to like be as crazy or as like super cool as they are. So like you might have been around for like when GTA 5 took off as a speedrunning scene, but you might never thought, oh, that's going to be a really good speed game. So it's like I want to see what people's answers to that is. It's kind of cool.
No, I'm not going to tell you who, but I am excited now. This is the great part of this, is that I already know who the next person is, so I get to be like, yes. I'll get to
can you throw me a bone, dude? Do I know the?
All right, I'm gonna DM you it, but you can't say it. All right.
Oh, you're gonna break your rule.
I'm gonna break the rule. I'm gonna give this to you just because you asked nicely. It's this is the next person. So,
okay.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Look, that should be good. I'm very, very curious about that one.
Mm-hmm.
Going into the future, we're almost out of this podcast. I think you've already mentioned at least one game or game DLC that you're interested in playing. What are you interested in playing games that are coming out soon?
Cyberpunk. I feel like everybody's on that. Cyberpunk is going to be probably one of the biggest releases that we're going to experience soon. Basically, anything Obsidian's working on, love their content. Anything Bethesda makes, huge fanboy, despite the fact that 76 was awful. I hate to say it. I'll gobble whatever they put out like it's a meal. But I forgot what it was. Fable. The new Fable game's coming out.
New Fable.
That was announced, and there's a clip of me reacting to it, and I went nuts because I love Fable. When that comes out, I'm going to be playing that too.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I never played Fable as a kid, but a few months back, I casually played Fable TLC for the first time, and actually had a lot of fun with it. So,
have you played Fable 2?
Not yet.
You need a 360 for it, or an Xbox One, but
I do have a 360. Thanks. I thankfully I'm able to get those consoles since it's not on PC for whatever reason.
I know, right? Like, there's 2 games I want on PC, and it's Fable 2 and Red Dead 1. Please.
Oh yeah, Red Dead 1. That would be.
And Bloodborne.
Yeah. Oh
those
yeah.
3,
well,
but that's it.
Hopefully with time, we'll see. I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn came to PC, so we can dream.
Didn't have a good release, did it?
Oh, you didn't? Okay. Oh, yeah. The release was not solid, but I don't know. The thing for me is like once it's on PC, hopefully there's a lot that can be done to sort of massage stuff out. Even if the original developer should have done that, but
I mean, when you port a game over, it's not as easy as just putting it on a disc and just saying PC, right?
Yeah.
So,
where can people find you, and also like what should they be looking forward from you?
So I'm not just primarily speedrun based. I like to, again, my goal is to have fun. So I like to do things like challenge runs. I like to do things like casual content alongside speedrunning. So that's what people can expect if they, were to check out my channel. But I stream on Twitch 5 days a week. I have a very strict schedule that I'm really bad at sticking to. I collectively put out good YouTube content, as in highlights that are pretty much made. I'm also working on a new series that I'm going to be releasing soon. Not going to name what it is, but I think it's a really fresh idea, and I think it could be really cool. I'll DM you, by the way, if you want the scoop. But
the hot scoop.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just search. I think it's Jabo on Twitter and YouTube, and just Jabo on Twitch.
Of course, and all those links will be provided below in the podcast description. There'll be the links to Twitch, Twitter, YouTube for Jabo, and also I'll be linking some of the runs and recordings that I had discussed and looked over before the interview. Jabo, thank you so much for giving me your time and all this lovely information.
Thanks, dude. I've really enjoyed this. It was good. I can suggest a few people that you can maybe message about having on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, and this I'll leave this in at the end for anyone who's listening. I always appreciate word of mouth recommendations. Obviously, I have thoughts and feelings I'm putting out there in terms of reaching out to people for interviews, but I always love hearing from folks about who they would like to see interviewed, and I'm always ready for that. So you want to DM me that later, and if other people want to reach out to me on, I'll also have my Twitter and whatnot in the description. So feel free to reach out to me there. But I do need one more thing from you before we end the recording. Now, to properly end it, I'm going to use a really cheesy, awkward catchphrase like "Let's boost on out of here," something like that. And when I do that, I need you to give me your best rocket booster engine noise.
Dude. Okay. You know what? Let's do it. All right.
Let's do it.
All right.
Okay, folks, thank you so much for listening. Let's boost on out of here.